There's too many people that are isolated in trying to do good work for God. They're all trying to figure out how to market Catholicism in a fresh way that actually engages people.
So we tried it the first year, had tremendous success.
It's exciting. I'm having fun. I'm meeting a lot of really great people.
I have been to all of these shows over the last year, and by far this is my favorite.
I want to emphasize the importance of what you're doing as lay apostles in the CMN.
The Catholic Marketing Network has a service that the marketplace needs and the church needs.
There's the distribution of a lot of Catholic religious items, but most of the people you talk to, they say, we really come for the networking.
It's a great joy to be here. In fact, it was almost 10 years ago that I came to the Catholic Marketing Network for the first time. There was a friend and I putting out sacred music, and Ignatius Press picked it up and they showcased us, and before you know it, we had sold 20,000 copies to people like you. And that sprungboard a company that now has reach in about 8 different countries.
I found really good and very interesting because I like when people come from everywhere and we can learn a lot. We come to show something, but they show us too. So that's amazing.
This is always one of my favorite events.
I always love coming here and being here because it's such a synergy to be around like-minded people with the same ideals, the same love for the church. So it's beautiful.
The St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation, in partnership with Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network, present a podcast for divorced and separated Catholics.
Hi, and welcome to a podcast from the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. This is Ann DeSantis, and this is our After Divorce series. I'm joined with Rose Sweet, and this is number 12 in this series for After Divorce. Welcome, Rose. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Ann. I'm happy but sad at the same time. We've had so much fun doing these 12 podcasts in this series for After Divorce for people who've, no matter if it's freshly divorced or it's been 10, 20 years even. So this is our last one in this series. So I'm sad about that, but I'm happy that we're doing it.
Yeah, I'm happy that we're doing it too. And there is so much information in those other podcasts that we did. So I just want to invite you who are listening to go to our YouTube channel, which is called Philly Nonatus, and subscribe to the channel, and then look for that series right there on the YouTube channel. It's also on our website at nonatus.org. And I want to also give you Rose's website so that you can get to know her if this is your first time for some of you, at rosesweet.com, because she is a Catholic coach. And not only are we going to talk about our topic today, which is living single, living well as it relates to divorce and separation and those affected, but this is going to help anybody because she's going to talk about the lifespan and how a Catholic coach can help you. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because everything that we've talked about in this series really is universal. Going through trauma, being lonely, being angry, being depressed, worrying about your kids, worrying about finances. We covered all those topics. And that's not just for the separated and divorced. It's really for everybody. We all go through these universal pains of life, and we all have the same deepest longings. And ultimately, as Catholics, we know that is for union with God. We'll have that union with God most fully in heaven, but he wants us to, step away from the things that are pulling us down and step into his embrace, to step along the path with him, and have that union with him. And that's really the goal of our life, is to learn from our human relationships how much God loves us. And even when they let us down, he never will. So he's always calling us, come to me, come to me. And that's really what our series is about. So yes, I'm a Catholic life coach, and I love what I do. we have a little practice. Coaches throughout the world use this little thing. It's called a life wheel or other things. And you draw a big circle on a piece of paper, and then you make it into a pie with about 6 pieces. And each of those slices represents a point of your life, a side of your life, an area. So we're going to go through those today: career, financial, relationships, health, space, which is your environment, and your spirituality. So if you're going through divorce, or it's been a while, and you're trying to create a life for yourself that does not include a new relationship, another marriage, these are things we can't control. Maybe you don't want it, maybe you do. Regardless, all of us can create a beautiful life as a single person. And, and as an aside, I'm going to ask our listeners to pray for the repose of the soul, Anne, of both your father-in-law and mother-in-law, who just recently died very close to each other. So this even is for widows and widowers. We don't want to be alone, but when we find ourselves alone, that should not hold us back from having the abundant life as Jesus promises us. So let's talk about that. So the key word for this show is downsize. And I'm going to ask you, what does that word downsize mean to you?
Well, what it means to me is that I think throughout our lives, I think of material things and throughout our lives, we need to declutter and we need to focus on the now. And, I've been living in my house now, this one here, for almost 23 years. And I was just saying to my husband that we need to continue to go to the basement and the garage and the rooms and the closets, and we need to organize. So I think we need to do that with all aspects of our lives, don't we?
Yes, that and the house is the good analogy. We need to do that decluttering in all areas of our lives. So that's what we're going to talk about. We have a tendency to accumulate too much stuff in every area of our life. That's the human condition. We look to things and relationships and all kinds of stuff to fill voids. We don't like to have empty hands. We don't like to have empty stomachs. We don't like to have empty time. We're used to filling things so that we feel lost when there's an emptiness, and we panic and we rush to fill it. That's what happens after divorce. And I know I'm bouncing around here, but St. John of the Cross, one of my favorite saints, he summarizes the whole of the spiritual life, the whole of all of life, into a very simple phrase: away from things and toward God. That's what all of us should be doing, no matter how old we are and where we are in life. If you're hanging on to too many things, too much stuff, too much thought process, even too many thoughts in your head, too many anxieties, too many worries, too many relationships, too many responsibilities, too many ministries, it's time to take a breath and go, wait a minute. What can I do well? What does God really want me to do? And what do I need to let go of? So downsizing is part of the spiritual life, which is detachment. We know as Catholics, we grew up hearing this word. We still hear this word. The thing is detaching from the things of the world that are good. Your house is good. Your relationships are good. But we have to not hold them so tightly and be so afraid of losing them. And open and move away from things and toward God. So let's look at the first area of the life circle. It's career. If you're post-divorce, you might find yourself working way too much to fill the void so you don't have to feel the pain. You might not be working at all. You may be somebody who is a stay-at-home parent, and now you have to work and you don't have a job and you're terrified. Or maybe you are blessed and you have plenty of money and you don't need to work. But each of those areas we need to take a look at after divorce. Where are you and how can you live single and live well and have the abundant life? So if you're working too much, it's usually out of fear and panic. And I know everybody's situation is different. But Anne, do you know anybody that works way, 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 way too much? Are you looking in the mirror?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, I do.
Okay. So the reason is this is the thinking. I need to please God more. So if I take on more and I take care of these people and I take care of all these people and I take care of this thing and I take care of this, then I'll be a good person and God will be pleased with me. There's a danger there because now we're getting on to performance. We're performing for God because we're not really sure He loves us and is pleased with us if we're doing less. So our culture feeds into this too. Perform, 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 and we look at the lives of the saints. Look at everything they did. Well, we're looking at their whole life. They took naps. They took vacations. They sat on the edge of a rock or a river, and they spent time just doing nothing, just thinking, just praying. We don't do that. We're afraid to do that because then the negative thoughts will come, the fears will come, the anxieties will come. So we stay too busy and we're killing ourselves. Now, what keeps us from letting go? And what would you say? What would keep, if I told you, Anne, you're doing too much. I've looked at your life. Mm-hmm. You're a good person and you do a lot for a lot of people, but you need to let go of something. What's the immediate reaction that you would have when I say you need to let go?
Yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, and even for me, I mean, the immediate thing is, what should I do? And the best advice that I can give for myself is time limits on work. I think, like saying, you know what, it's Friday night at 5:00. I don't need to work until Monday morning. I mean, that's an example. Or it's 6 or 7 o'clock on a weeknight. I can spend the rest of the night with my family instead of constantly working.
Okay, but why do you want to constantly work? That's where, as a life coach, I would say, okay, that's good that you said I have to, turn the computer off and go to my family. But why? Why are we working so hard? It's usually fear of not making enough money, fear of not doing our job well, fear of disappointing people, fear of not helping enough people. You and I are both in ministry and our work is ministry. So sometimes we just take on too much responsibility that God did not intend for us to have. Mm-hmm. And here's what I always tell myself. And you and I don't have to save the world because Jesus already did. Mm. He just says, Anne and Rose, I want you to help me in my work. And you don't have to do a ton. You have your certain age, your certain place in your life. You have certain responsibilities. I'm not going to demand all this stuff of you to make so that you will please me and you will be holy. So we kind of have a wrong image of how God sees us. He's very pleased with us. Now, let's flip over to the person who doesn't work enough, who is lazy and procrastinating and stuck, afraid of hard work, afraid of going out there. I mean, all of us have our issues to deal with work, but work after a divorce or separation can be a blessing because it's something we can sink our teeth into and do good and feel good about ourselves. But it can be an excuse and a place we hide. So each person has to, take an honest look, talk about this with your spiritual director or a friend or a good life coach and say, am I not doing enough or am I doing too much? Because when we have balance, then we can breathe. When we have balance, then we can breathe. And don't you think a lot of people are racing through life like barely catching their breath?
I do. And I think part of it is our culture too, because we teach that. I mean, my watching with my children and being involved in play groups when the kids were little, I mean, the competition starts young. The competition starts when did your kid start to crawl? When did he start to walk? How old was your child when she started to read? I mean, it's a competitive world, and it's a sad thing because everybody has their gifts and talents, and there's a balance there, and we don't need to be the best at everything, just the best at what what we know how to do, right? And that what God has presented to us as our mission, right? So
right. And our mission, first and foremost, is to take a look at our own life and make sure it has balance, that we're not overly attached to others and things so that we can't see him, hear him, be in his presence. Even when we don't feel his presence, we still in our mind are his. That takes a certain energy out of us. And that is our primary mission, to make sure that we are listening to him and receiving his love and returning his love. When we do that, we're able then to go out to our spouse or our children or our job or whatever and give what we have to give. But if we're not taking care of ourselves and we don't have balance within ourselves, we're not going to do the best that we want to do. So after divorce, there's a lot of pain we're carrying. There's a lot of loneliness, maybe unforgiveness that's still down there, resentment that's still there, fear of the future that's still there. And we covered a lot of these topics in the prior episodes. But anyway, that's our goal, one day at a time. And usually with people after divorce, they have to take care of themselves and support themselves. So they got to take a look at your career, take a look at your job, whatever it is. Try to get that in balance so that then you can take care of all the other things, which we're coming to now. Any comment before I go to the next?
No, great so far.
Okay. So following career and kind of attached to career is your financial life. I know I work with a lot of people who, after divorce, are financially devastated. They don't have the lifestyle that they were used to being married. Their income is way down for whatever reason. Remember I said the word downsize. So this is the same thing kind of detachment. Financial, nobody's entitled after divorce. Nobody is entitled to the way you lived prior to divorce. I'm sad to say that's just reality. That's part of the loss and the horror of divorce is that we are financially strapped. And, we got to take a look at that. So do you really need that big, huge house that you got in the divorce now that the kids are grown and out? Maybe, maybe not. Downsizing is scary because, as you said, Anne, you've been in your house for 20 years, right?
23, yeah.
Okay, and you got a lot of stuff on the walls. You got a lot of stuff in the drawers. The thought of downsizing to you, does that sound good to you? Like packing everything up and going somewhere smaller? Does it sound?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I know that we want to downsize in terms of getting rid of things.
Okay, so that's a good beginning, but you don't, it's hard to leave a place you've been in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard. So we have to, though, to be prudent and to be balanced, we have to be willing to trust God and say, Lord, I don't want to leave this house, but I know I have to. I'm going to find a little condo. And most of the people that I work with, once they make that leap and they're in a smaller place that's just as cute and comfortable and functional, they go, oh, why didn't I do this earlier? This is so easy. And, blah. But the way of getting there seems insurmountable sometimes. It's tough. But another thing that I have to do for people after divorce is I have to put them on a budget. They've never lived on a budget. I'm not surprised anymore, and I'm not going to ask you, Anne, but most people don't live on a specific budget. They know in general what they make or what they spend, but they don't know. And sometimes their credit card bills are piling up and their savings is dwindling. That's a drain. That's a fear. That's an anxiety. And whether we're dealing with it or not, it's like a low level hum in the background. It's like draining our electricity out of us. So, what do you really need to live? Well, you need food, clothing, shelter, but, and yes, you need a vacation, but maybe it could just be a weekend somewhere. It doesn't have to be a week in Hawaii anymore. So there's grieving that comes with going on to a budget. There's shock and maybe anger I know when I help people get the budget and I go, okay, here's your new lifestyle. And this is how much it's going to cost. And they go, are you kidding me? I can't make that much money. I go, I know. Let's go back and see where we can downsize, where we can cut out. I don't want to. It's not fair. And I go, I know it's not fair. But here's where our faith comes in. We're on this earth for such a short time. We're going to have injustices. We're going to deal with things that hurt us and deprive us. This is our cross. This is where Jesus says, I know this, I know crosses, trust me. This is your cross, but I'm with you to help you carry it. So, we're trying to cover a lot about this in one episode, but I want people to understand, don't be afraid to look at the scary thing of your work or your money. It's the most important thing that you need after your spiritual life to survive in this world and to be present for people who need you. So let's get it where it should be and relieve you of the anxiety, relieve you of the fear and worry so that you have, so you can breathe and enjoy. The next category, relationships. What happens after divorce, Anne, in relationships?
Well, they change for sure.
They change, and some of them go away.
That's
and
right.
you lose some relationships. So downsizing your relationships means taking a look after divorce at the ones that are most important, the ones that are good for you, your friends that call you to go higher. I know, dealing with a lot of men and women, I have them take a look at their friendships. Who's telling you that your ex, it was a total waste and a total loser and woohoo and thank God you're divorced? Is that person really somebody that you want in your life? Do you need 500,000 friends? Just because you've been friends with somebody a long time, you need to take stock of, who are my friends? Even Jesus says that, who are my brother and sister? Take a look at who's in your life. And if they're not building you up and calling you to go higher, to be free of bitterness and to be free of anxiety, they may be draining you. Is it sad to let go of relationships? Yes. Is there grief involved there? Yes. And didn't we talk about grief in one of our episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, there is a grieving. Here's the problem, though. When you lose relationships, sometimes a whole half side of a family, sometimes you'll never even see your mother-in-law, father-in-law, and all the other people on your spouse's side of the family. The doors are closed there. It's shocking, but it happens. The tendency is to turn and grab onto our children like they're lifesavers in an ocean. And we hang on to them so tightly and we make them the center of our life. That's not good for the kids. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. The one relationship we should be hanging on to for dear life after divorce is our Lord. That's hard because we can't see him or touch him or feel him like we can in the visible world. But he says, come to me and make me center. But we're in our relationships, we're afraid. So here's what happens after divorce. We either become real dependent on our children and we let our children control us, or we become real dependent on our children and we try to control them. And I deal with two different types of parents after divorce. The gentle, sweet, soft-spoken personality who doesn't want to make waves and allows the kids to now be in charge of the house. They've gone through, you know what, Rose? They've gone through so much pain already. Their father walked out on them. Their mother walked out. I can't add more pain to them by trying to discipline them. And I'm like, oh man, you better, or they're going to take over the whole house. And they're not equipped or able at 12 or 13 or even 16 to be the head of the household. But that's what happens because our heart goes out to our wounded children and we don't want to put any other burdens on them. The other one is the different, more dominant type personality who's then over attached to the kids. And what are you guys doing? Who are you going out with? Where are you living? How come you're not home for Sunday dinner? What are you going to do that for? You should go to this college. And they're real enmeshed and trying to control every little thing of their child's life because they're panicking. They don't have anywhere else they feel like they really belong or have purpose now. Doesn't that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
So in marriage, we have a tendency to go, okay, I'm married. This is who I am and where I belong. And my husband, my wife, we hang on to each other, right? But if that blows up, you can't go after your kids, or the people who don't go after the kids go out to the bars or go out to the even church or whatever, and they're looking for the new spouse. So we're all adrift in the sea of fear after divorce, and we're looking for something to hang on to, someone to hang on to. I learned through my own divorce, not having anybody to hang on to drove me to our Lord. And I learned to be completely alone. No children to hang on to. No spouse to hang on to. At first, after divorce, I ran out and tried to date and do it again, and I made a big mess. But then for many, many years, I was on my own, and I didn't date. I didn't seek that out. And I learned that I could be happy with a select group of good friends, some distant relatives, the people I work with. And I created a life with God's grace that was rich and satisfying and meaningful. Was it perfect? No. And are any of us ever going to have the perfect life? No. You're shaking your head no. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me ask you this, Anne. Look at all the people in the world that are real famous, have tons of money, can have everything they want. Are they happy?
I'm sure some are, but a lot of them aren't.
Yeah. Some of them even commit suicide. Mm-hmm. We've been having more and more of that in the news lately. Mm-hmm. So having everything that you think you want isn't necessarily true happiness. Mm-mm. And that's where we as Catholics, we know that those things come and those things go. And I don't mean to downplay marriage or the beauty of our children, but they come and they go. They change. And we need to hang on to our Lord. So next, so we've talked about taking a look at your career after divorce and taking a look at your financial situation and be willing to make changes or to downsize or simplify. And same thing with relationships. Now let's talk about health. How many of us are overweight? How many of us have high blood pressure? How many of us are always exhausted? How many of us may be fine in all those other areas, but we got migraine headaches that come and go? You know, our body reveals, and it's kind of the buffer zone for what's going in our mind and our heart and our soul. So taking a look at your health is really important, especially I'm in a decade now. I just had a birthday. It's way up there. And it's like, I don't want to use the word elderly, but other people are using that word. I have to be more intentional about walking, getting a little exercise, making sure that I'm sleeping well. Because your body is going to make demands on you, especially after divorce. So if you want to get back up to a happy, healthy, holy life, you got to take care of your body. And anything that's like going into your body that's not good, you need to stop it. That's hard sometimes if we have lifelong habits. I went out last night with friends and I had the most delicious Bombay gin dirty martini with 2 olives, which I love. It was delicious. And yet the older I get, I realize alcohol disrupts my sleep. It didn't used to, but it does now. And I have to be very careful. I love to drink a cocktail, but I don't do it on a regular basis because I know I will pay a price. And I want to keep myself fit rested, healthy, that improves your mental attitude. It helps you with your energy. So then I can go to my career. I can deal with my financial issues. I can be present in my relationships. So health, sometimes we leave to the very end. But after divorce, and people, especially after initial divorce, if you need those extra naps, take them. If you need an extra dish of ice cream, eat it. We talked about the 5 remedies for sorrow from St. Thomas Aquinas in one of our earlier episodes. And he says, when you're just overcome with sorrow and just everything is weighing you down, number one, first thing, just treat yourself. And we do that with our kids. We go, come here, honey, have a Twinkie, or, have a lollipop or something. We give them a little treat to help them calm down, to feel a little better, and to get back on track. So the same with your health, take care of yourself. Don't overdo it, but see where you need to downsize. This is our theme for this episode, downsize. Cut out. And I'm going to ask you, do you think you do enough exercise?
Not always, but yes, I do exercise every day, but I could do more.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what? Do you know how many people don't exercise every day? So you're probably doing fine. You're probably doing fine.
Oh.
And I know, but see, sometimes that's a fear. I do the same thing. I go, maybe, at night when you go to bed and you're reviewing your day, as good Catholics call that an examine. Mm-hmm. We take a look at the day and we thank God for everything. And we make a resolve that tomorrow, anything that we didn't do that we'd like to do better, we'll do. But I think sometimes, and I'm not trying to be loosey-goosey here, but after divorce is kind of special. We think we should have done more, but maybe we couldn't. Maybe we couldn't. We did the very best we could that day. And God is very pleased with us. And we're the ones that are afraid. I could have done more. I could have done more. Especially we go back to our past. I could have raised the kids better. I could have been a better spouse. I should have said this. I could have done. This is danger. Don't do that. Cut that out right away. Go to the Lord, and just say, Lord, I know I have failed in the past, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure. Help me remember how much I love you and you love me and how good I am made in your image. And yes, I already thank you because you're bringing me right along where I need to be. So it's not an excuse to sit back and just be where you are, but it's getting rid of the shame and the performance anxiety. Okay, let's move from health to what we were just talking about, space. I help a lot of people in my coaching declutter. And it really is a wonderful, powerful exercise when you get rid of stuff in your house. It helps you realize, now I have stuff in my head I got to get rid of. I have stuff in my schedule that I have to get rid of. I have way too much crammed into my relationships. And this, I'm back on relationships, but this helped me realize I had all these friends and I wanted to have lunch with all of them on a regular basis, but I couldn't. I didn't have time and I didn't have money. And I had to realize I had to keep some and let some go. So this is the downsize, where you keep what is good and necessary and you let go of also something that is good, but you don't really need it. And now you're making room. You're making room on your plate. You're making room in your day for spiritual matters, which is the most important thing. For God to speak to you, for you to be able to hear him, to be present to him, and to be able to be present to others. So do you have a junk drawer in your house, Anne?
More than one.
More than one? Oh. So yeah, you know what? That's a challenge. Even a junk drawer. I see in the background, both of us are doing this out of our home, and I see that you're in a bedroom and you have a bed there. I'd like to come over to your house and take one of your junk drawers and throw it out all on that bed, and then you and I could sit there and go through each thing and go, Anne, do you need 37 unsharpened pencils? And
Yeah.
And it
That's
sounds right. It sounds like a small and insignificant thing, but it is really a powerful reality. Remember when Jesus said, how you handle the little things are going to open the door for how I have you handle the big things. If we're amassing too much, too many pencils, too many rubber bands, too many decks of cards, too many anything, it's a sign that we are living in fear of getting rid of these things. And so there's stuff in our mind and our heart that God wants us to go in, and he wants to go with us and declutter our mind and our heart. But we have to get ourselves primed, as it were, and to be able to, yes, I can throw this away. Yes, I can throw this away. Yes, I can let go. And it actually feels good.
Yes, I agree with you completely. Yeah.
What right now, we're talking about this, but is there anything that pops into your mind right now that you know you should just get rid of, and you need to, like when we're not on the phone, not hanging up, but when we end this, you should probably go and say, you know what, this is going in the trash. Do you have does anything come to mind to you?
Well, speaking of, I'm in we have an office that's also a guest like bed here. So I'm actually in an office, but there's a bed, a twin bed behind me. And underneath that bed, LOL, right, now this is a collaborative effort, and maybe he's listening, maybe not, but Angelo has a lot of the, CDs, music CDs that I've been getting on him, like, let's get rid of these, and DVDs that we don't use anymore. And I've been getting on him, and he's, we'll get to it. So I would say that's probably near the top of the list, is getting rid of a lot of those old CDs and DVDs.
Well, isn't that funny that, I see that bed, and now we're talking about that bed in your office, and what's under there, out of sight, out of mind. And if we want to have a healthy, holy, happy life after divorce, we have to lift the bedspread and look under the bed in all the areas of our life, and just make the time to pull that stuff out and go through it. It can be exhausting. And that's what, as a life coach, I help people say, look, you don't have to do all this in 3 weeks, or maybe you take the next year dealing with some of this stuff, but let's make a list. Let's make a blueprint and a plan of how you're going to do it, so that when August 1st comes and September 1st comes, you know what you're going to do. And when Angelo goes, well, I'll get to it, that's too vague.
Yeah.
He didn't put a date on it, right? So it's not going to happen.
That's right. And then the other thing I would say for people listening, when you're in a family, I'm married and I have 2 daughters that are in their 20s, and they both still live here. So 4 adults here. And the one thing I've learned is that if you only have one person, like say me, who usually gets that designation of the person who gets rid of things on a regular basis, which I do. We have an organization in the Philadelphia area called Vietnam Veterans Association. And so once a month they come here, and I have them come, and I have tell the family, like, let's get our bags together. Let's drop but the thing is that it needs to be more than just one person. If you're in a home, we need to make that a collaborative effort, because if it's only one person doing it, then it also doesn't get done. So would you agree with that?
Yes. So this is how my mother raised me in the long, long time ago. And I'll be so forever thankful. She made us all stop everything. She said, put down your homework, send your friends home, everybody come inside. We're going to have quiet time. And she made us go in our room. We didn't have phones or TVs. We could read or take a nap. That was the 2 choices. But she made us slow down our hectic schedule and have nothing to do, quiet time, so that we could rest and have balance. Then she would also call us in and go, okay, everybody goes home. Saturday afternoon, we're all going in your bedrooms, and you're cleaning out your closet, and you're cleaning out under the bed. Everybody's going to go through and declutter. And she had big boxes, trash, donations, sell, give away, or whatever. And it forced us to habitually take a look at our environment and our space around us and keep it it wasn't necessarily, we didn't hang our clothes up because we were kids, right? But she made us do that every once in a while. And she made us, you don't need 5 teddy bears. You can keep one and let's give the 4 to the poor people. Or, whatever, this one goes in the trash. So she helped us take a look at sorting out the excess in our lives. And that primed the pump for us to look at the excess in our daily schedule, our weekly schedule, our annual schedule, our mind, our heart, the excess, the clutter. So part of the reason that your family isn't as wonderful as you, Anne, is because I'm sure that they they've filled their days and their weeks with so much stuff they don't have time to go through everything under the bed. They don't have time.
Yeah.
So
I would say this, not to draw a picture as if
I know, I'm teasing.
Yeah, that they're lazy or whatever, and they're not. But I mean, I do think you're right. We need to take that initiative, and we need to, like you said, kind of make it a regular part of who we are, is to going through and saying, you know what, I don't need all this stuff and I need to declutter. And everybody has a different definition, I think, too, of what is really organized and what isn't. Right. I mean, don't you think there's like levels of, some people come in my house and they're like, this is the cleanest, neatest house I've ever seen in my life. You know what I mean?
I know, but
but at the same time, it's like, there's levels, there's levels of how, how organized do we want to be? Like, do we want?
Well, right. But it goes like this. You start on a top layer and then you realize how good it is and how free it is. And then you go deeper and you begin to let go of more things as you go along. That's how it's happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But we need structure. And that's what I do as a coach. I go, I'm sorry, get a piece of paper and a pencil and write this down. We're going to make a list. We're going to make a chart. We're going to have an organized approach. This is the day you're going to do this. This is the month you're going to do that. Because all these wonderful plans that we have to pray more, be with our family more, do all the things that we want to do, they do not happen by themselves. It takes intentional planning. And that seems overwhelming. There's a lot of reasons we don't want to do that. We resist control. We resist rigidity. We don't like lists because our mother shoved lists at us all our life or whatever, but it's absolutely necessary. And that's what I help people do is and getting rid of all the excess in the house helps you get rid of the excess in other areas. So now here we are winding down. We've saved this for last, but it's really not last. It's our spirituality. And by downsizing our work, our financial excess, our relationship excess, our health excess, our space excess, we will have more time for prayer. We will have more time for quiet. We will have more time to do the things that we know our Lord has been calling us to do that we're not doing. And when we do that, we get rid of the shame and the guilt and the fear. And by spending more time with our love, with our Lord, that fills us up with joy and happiness. And remember when you and Angelo were first married and the glow of romance was still shining bright, right? And I know it still is. But when you would both be work, or whatever you're doing, but then you put it all aside and come and be with each other and just look at each other and focus on each other and be in each other's presence, it's rejuvenating. It's joyful. It helps you put all that other stuff in perspective. It helps you not feel alone. And that's a big thing after divorce. There's a lot of levels of loneliness. And not wanting to look at the loneliness, we work too much. Not wanting to deal with the loneliness, we spend too much. Not wanting to admit the loneliness, we pile in all the relationships. So again, that loneliness is a form of emptiness. and we're not used to emptiness. I tell some of my coaching clients to go get a really beautiful plate, like a decorative plate. Do you have any of those in your home?
Mm-hmm.
And put it somewhere, excuse me, put it somewhere to remind you that it's empty. Don't be afraid of the empty plate. Don't be afraid to have nothing. Don't be afraid of emptiness, because that's where our Lord loves to come in and fill it up with what really matters.
That's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Really
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm. For everybody, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to help people downsize. And I think that is a big key to living single, or even living married, or living whatever state of life you're in. Living well, living it well, and finding peace and purpose and a renewed passion for life. That's the key. And that's what I love to help people do. And I know everybody at the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation is about that too, helping families who are traumatized by divorce and in danger of losing their faith. So here's how I'm going to tie this in. The St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation mission really is to help people as part of your fourth vow, the Mercedarian fourth vow. My life for your freedom. People who are in danger of losing their faith, the Mercedarians rush in and say, hang on, let us help you. Don't give up. Don't walk away from God. Don't dismiss God. He loves you. He has what you need. Let us help you. After divorce, a lot of people are in danger of losing their faith. Maybe not leaving the church, but in danger of losing their faith in God, their faith in life, their faith in the big picture, that things are going to be okay. And that's what this podcast is about. We want to help you look at the practical areas of your life so that you're not just not in danger of losing your faith. You get on fire for your faith. You get on fire. And I know, Anne, you've worked with the divorced people too. So many say, my divorce was hell, but the one good thing that came out of it is I found God again. I turned to him. I was distracted from him, and I'm closer to him. I'm on fire now. My faith is the center of my life now, nothing else. And I get goosebumps when I hear that every time. I never get tired of hearing it. So don't let divorce be the end. It was a horrible chapter in the story of your life, but the best is yet to come. And I've said that before, the best is yet to come.
You're doing amazing work, Rose. We're so honored that you're part of this foundation. And I've said it before, being the vice president, even though you say the vice president doesn't do much, but this one does.
I know.
Take a look at our website, because you'll see the great work that Rose has helped us with developing a beautiful website. You could go to nonatus.org and learn more. As Rose said, I mean, our mission is, our lives for your freedom, because that's the charism of the Mercedarian Order, founded in 2015. We've now been around for almost 6 years. And I think that we've really helped so many people through our efforts, and also through the efforts of Rose's help. And I've been blessed to be with the organization since 2017, and hope to continue to try our best to bring beautiful podcasts like this one and other programs. Please do check out that website at the programs and events page and seeing what's going on with us this year. And I invite you to make an appointment also with Rose for a free consultation, initial consultation. The coaching itself, she will discuss with you the pricing there. There's a pricing package there, but you can get the free consult with her by going to rosesuite.com and be able to get that individual help. It's really worth it, to say to everyone there. It's an investment. When you make an investment in something and you live and you're really doing what Rose is teaching, it's going to make a difference in your life and in your spiritual life and your financial life and in your relationships and all those areas, like she talked about during the podcast.
And thank you, Anne. I love being part of this organization. One of the things that I know about life is that we don't make change until we suffer enough pain. You think of little kids, when you're just talking at them, they don't change their bad behavior, but when they have to pay a price that's painful, they change. So everybody who's gone through divorce, myself included, thank God, as it says in the gospel. This sounds contradictory, but thank God for the divorce, because in that pain, you have an opportunity a lot of people don't have. Life is so comfortable for them, they never let go of the excess. They never open their minds and hearts more fully to God because life is too comfortable. And those of us who were thrust into the horrible nightmare of divorce, we are more likely to make that decision. Oh my gosh, I need to take a look at my life. What just happened? Who am I? Where am I going? What's really important? Through the pain and tragedy and trauma of divorce, we have the opportunity to get our lives where God wants them in the first place. And that is worth great thanksgiving to our dear Lord who loves all of us. So thank you, Anne. Thank you to the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation.
Yes, thank you so much. And this is the end of our 12-part series. I'm going to invite you to go back again to our playlist there on the Philly Nonatus YouTube channel. Go back, listen to them again. Go to our website at nonatus.org on the podcast and videos page and take a look at that playlist and listen to it, share it with your friends. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us for this podcast tonight. And Rose, thank you so much for giving us your time, talent, and treasure, right, for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation. God bless everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. For more information about the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation, visit nonatus.org or email director.srnf@gmail.com. Did you enjoy this podcast? Listen to other podcasts from Patchwork Heart Ministry by following Patchwork Heart Radio wherever you listen to podcasts.